Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill is going to join us. Utah Senator Mike Lee is here today. South Carolina Congressman Trey Gowdy, who headed up the hearing yesterday, is here live. And New York Congressman Peter King has a lot to say about the terror threat overseas and here at home. There are many, many questions, as you can imagine, as this trip continues overseas and, you know, with these horrible events that have unfolded in Manchester, England. So we're going to get to all of it coming up here over the next hour and 15 minutes.
It may change or impact at least the conversation that goes on at NATO, because there's been such a push by this president to say, we need you to take terrorism more seriously. That's got to be on the table for conversations. Yep. All right, coming up. So did the alleged Manchester suicide bomber have help? That is a big question for British investigators, and they've got to answer it soon. Also back at home, senators want answers from former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. The latest development
rules. But what we also know is that we're moving in a direction that will make health care more affordable for the American people. What we want to do is get the federal government out of the health care regulation business as much as we possibly can so that we can bring down the cost of health care and make it more affordable for Americans who right now in many parts of the country are finding it their single biggest expense.
Well, and there's a new report out coming through HHS, a senior official there saying the cost of individual Obamacare policies are up an average of 105% between 2013 and 2017 in 39 states using the federal exchange. Alabama's the worst example, up 223% from $178 to now almost $400. So those numbers help make your argument. But what about a measure, a proposal, a bill? Can you put forth that will actually change the reality of that for people who are writing those checks?
Well, we can learn a lot, Shannon, from the government regulation that's kicked in. Since the Affordable Care Act took full effect just about 4 years ago, what we've seen is an astronomical spike in the cost of health care. I think it stands to reason that when government gets involved and the price goes way up, perhaps we should roll back on the federal government's involvement and watch prices go down. You see, because excessive federal government intervention squelches competition. But when competition is allowed to thrive, then two things happen. Prices go down and quality goes up. That's what the American people expect and deserve, and that's what we hope to deliver.
Well, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said he could do with less drama from the White House, a little less drama down the road there on Pennsylvania Avenue. How much is the constant drip of talk about Comey, talk about Russia, talk about releasing information to the Russians? How much does that impact your ability to focus people and get things done there on the Hill, or does it?
I don't think it does. I mean, look, we're working on this process. I hope to continue working on this process until we're finished. We want to make sure we get it right. And we want to make sure we get it done. Sure, there are other things going on, but it's Washington. There are always other things going on. We can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Is the president, though, a partner for you in this and things like getting the Senate bill drafted? You know, we know what happened with the House, that there was a lot of last-minute arm twisting and deal making to get this thing done. Are you operating just solely as a legislative body at this point with no influence from the president? Would it be helpful for him to get involved, or do you prefer to do it on your own?
At this point, it's operating within the Senate. I'm sure there will be more involvement from the White House down the road, but at this point, we've got Republican senators working day in, day out to make sure we get this done and get it done right.
Okay, The Hill in a piece today says Republicans are struggling to rack up legislative victories during President Trump's first 100 days in office, despite having their first unified government in a decade. And talk about the pressure that you all now feel. Do you feel the pressure?
Oh, sure. And it's appropriate. The pressure has been put on us by Washington itself. The pressure is pressure that we ourselves have caused as a Congress. In other words, when we've overextended the federal government's reach and we've caused a lot of people throughout the country to suffer as a result, that makes it incumbent upon us to undo the damage that we've done. We've got to undo a lot of the harm that we've been inflicting on the American people by extending the federal government's reach far beyond its intended limits.
Well, I know you've written some excellent books on just that topic. They're worth a read for folks out there who'd like to know a little bit more about how it's supposed to work. Senator Mike Lee, good to see you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Again, waiting on a police debrief in Manchester, England. We'll bring that to you in a moment. Here also, the president en route to Brussels, Belgium, expected to land in a matter of minutes here. Congressman Trey Gowdy, meanwhile, back at home, pressing for hard evidence on possible collusion between Trump campaign aides and Russia, as the former CIA director testifies before a House committee on that very topic.
Did you have evidence of a connection between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors?
As I said, Mr. Gowdy, I don't do evidence.
I appreciate that you don't do evidence, Director Brennan. Unfortunately, that's what I do.
Now, the day after, and the congressman is our guest live in a moment. Trey Gowdy, stand by there in the Hill.
Plus, a tanker truck explodes on a California highway, what police say may have played a role in that.
I win! I win! Come here!
It's a really simple question. Did evidence exist of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors at the time you learned of 2016 efforts?
I don't know whether or not such collusion, that's your term, such collusion existed. I don't know.
Wow. So that exchange between Congressman Trey Gowdy, chair of that committee, and former CIA Director John Brennan from yesterday. Brennan testifying before the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman Trey Gowdy is with me now live to talk about what he has learned. And sir, good day to you. Good
Yes,
morning,
sir.
and thank you for your time. So tell us,
sir.
where are you now based on what you heard yesterday? Let's start there with the public hearing.
Well, we are one witness into what will probably be a several dozen witness investigation. Director Brennan's really important. He was the head of the CIA. Of course, you know, we've already talked to Director Comey, Admiral Rogers. We've already talked to current Director Mike Pompeo. He's a really important witness, and we've had both a public and a private setting. It was helpful, I think, for your viewers. Some of that information members of the committee already knew. But this is a really important issue when a foreign country seeks to interfere with our democratic process, and I appreciate Director Brennan coming.
All right. So what he talked about was the contacts between Russian officials and some of those connected to the Trump team. What you were asking specifically was about collusion for the election and points after. So did you get greater clarification on number one or number two, the collusion or the contact?
Well, we already knew that this won't surprise anybody. Foreign actors seek to contact members of campaigns during the pendency of campaigns. That should not surprise anyone. The collusion is a specific word, Bill, but it's also the specific word that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle like to use. 3 California Democrats have all used the words evidence and collusion. None of those 3 have any idea. They're not fact witnesses. So I wanted to ask the fact witness, is there evidence of collusion? There are other important issues. Contacts is important. Coordination's important. All of that. But the word collusion, conspiracy, coordination, to me is one of the seminal questions in this investigation, and that's why I asked you.
Okay, so specifically then, do you have evidence of collusion today?
I do not, but I'm not a fact witness. That's why we have to talk to the 36 witnesses that we're going to bring in.
Okay. Does John Brennan have evidence of collusion today?
If he had it, he didn't give it to us yesterday. And what he did in his defense is he took what he had and he gave it to the FBI, which is the proper place for it to go if it is a criminal or quasi-criminal investigation.
Okay, but you had a private meeting after the public hearing, correct?
We did, yes, sir.
I know you're not going to give up much on that, but characterize that meeting for our viewers.
More granularity, more particularity. I think Director Brennan said in his public session how devastating leaks are. We went into that and how to stop them. And I think we alluded to the fact that the Russians are not the friend of any American. So they're going to collect information on Secretary Clinton, President Trump. They may release all of it. They may release some of it. I'm interested in what they did not release because it helps me understand their motive.
Okay, so a specific question here. Did you learn something in the private hearing that leads you in a new direction today?
I didn't, Bill, because I've been headed in the same direction for the last 3 months, which is I want to talk to every single witness that has access to firsthand information. I want to understand Russian efforts, our response, if there was collusion, and keep in mind this tripartite question that I've asked before: direct with President Trump, direct with his campaign, or direct with people who are kind of wannabe hanger-on campaign. The campaign folks who aren't official. So those are 3 different tranches, and I want to know the answer to all 3 of those tranches.
Is the third tranche, is that like the Carter Page connection? Or?
I'm sure you, as famous as you are, you have people in your life that claim to know you, but they really don't. I suspect presidential candidates have people that represent access to them that really do not have that.
Okay, now you were asking questions about the unmasking. What were you going for there?
we're not going to reauthorize these surveillance programs if the American people are not satisfied that their security is going to be safeguarded. So leaks are one issue. The unmasking within the intelligence community, that is a privilege to be able to request that a U.S. person's name be unmasked. And I want to know who's making the request, what is the evidentiary basis of that request, and if it's late in your tenure, like the day before you leave office, that should send off alarms and sirens in your head as to why that person did it.
Okay, two more specific questions on that. Do you have evidence that the Obama administration abused the unmasking and the procedures under the law?
I don't have a good definition for the word abused. I need to know what the policies and procedures are, and I need to know the full universe of unmasking requests. Were any denied? Were some